I missed my own introduction. I was backstage. That was crazy. I don't assume that everyone here, I think there might be one or two people here who don't know Mr. Deity or what Mr. Deity is about. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the show to you just a little bit. Mr. Deity is a satirical look at God and the universe. It's a little web show that we do on YouTube. We did it for a year with Sony on their Crackle, and now we're back on our own. It was mutual. I play Mr. Didi, or some form of God. Really, I play like a kind of watered-down, anthropomorphic version of the Judeo-Christian God. Jimbo Marshall over here. Jimbo, stand up. Jimbo, I want to say Jimbo is my biatch. But he's my long-suffering assistant. He's really the guy who probably should have been taken over. But Mr. Deity's a backslapper. He knows how to grease the wheels, so he got the job. Sean Douglas plays Jesus, or Jesse, because Mr. Deity can never remember his name. It's a difficult name. I mean, come on, let's face it. And then the beautiful Amy Roran plays Lucifer, or Lucy. And I married her this year, so pretty smart move on my part, I gotta tell you. I thought we'd get more press for that, you know, God and the devil marry, reconcile their differences. Anyway, we started the show in 2007, in January 2007. We loaded three episodes up, and it took off. And we got a lot of attention and praise. I don't want to go into the praise part because it would be embarrassing for me. What is that? I'm sorry? You want to hear the praise? You too? Well, all right. Here's some quotes. This really is embarrassing for me, though. I'm going to do it for you, but I'm not happy about it. Mr. Deity is really quite brilliant, funny without being offensive, insightful without trying to be too deep, said Michael Shermer, publisher of Skeptic Magazine, who was in one of our very recent episodes. We love Michael. Hysterical, I laughed really hard, said Julia Sweeney, former Saturday Night Live alumnus. And if you're Twittering this right now, I think that you would do LRH, laughed really hard. So feel free to do that. This is a work of genius. Now, my wife doesn't like me hearing that because she says, I need to keep you in your place. Don't forward me all the emails or the comments that come in saying you're a genius. I don't want to hear it. Although I married her, so how stupid can I be? This show is brilliant, so on target. The writer is a genius. Another genius thing. Hollywood better grab him up fast. Bill Maher, where are you? We need an executive producer. I love Mr. Deity. This is the best comedy I've seen in eons. This is incredibly funny, but why does God act like such a fag? Fag? Jimbo, I told you to get me some good quotes. I love the idea of God being an effete homosexual. Jimbo. Damn it. God, I can't rely on him for anything. Okay, I love Mr. Deity, and because I love him, I want him to know that I will be laughing my ass off when he's burning in hell for mocking God. Okay, well, most of it, you're gonna have to trust me here, most of it is positive, the overwhelming majority of it. In fact, we've gotten very few aggressively hateful mails. I have been told a number of times how quickly I'm going to hell. But for the most part, it's been very positive. If you haven't seen the show, we want to start you off with one of our latest episodes. This is Adam with Mr. Deity and Larry. They've just come back from the garden, and they're going to create his wife for him, but not before this. So if we can run Mr. Deity and the Man. Lights, please. So So pretty sweet setup, huh? I mean, that would be a nice bachelor pad if you were gonna stay a bachelor. I hope not.
There you are. Where have you been?
We were in the garden. Why?
He's wearing clothes.
He kept bending down to pet the smaller animals. It was awkward.
I thought we were going to do the wife thing today.
I don't see a clipboard in your hand here. Let's get the paperwork.
I'm on it.
So, Adam, you understand that a wife is essential to getting my plan off the ground here. We need to get you guys multiplying and replenishing. Need you to do the horizontal mambo.
I'm not a dancer, sir, so I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm with you, whatever it is.
Great.
Okay, I'm going to need your John Hancock on the X.
Okay.
Whoa.
Whoa. What are you doing there, Chief? We just need a signature there, if you don't mind.
Here's the pen.
Keep it in the cage.
What's this?
It's a, what would you call it? It's a
waiver.
Standard waiver.
It's what we call
Very standard.
Standard.
Throughout the whole industry, it's just standard.
Yeah, everybody does this. It's
Just boilerplate stuff. I mean, feel free to read it over before you sign.
I can't read.
Oh, right. I'll take care of this. So it says, I, Adam, that's you, being of sound mind and judgment, do request the creation of a wife, and in so doing, acknowledge that engaging in this activity may lead to the paradisical state which was made for me being broken or caused to be broken. I fully accept and assume all such risks and responsibilities for losses, costs, and damages to me, my heirs, my assigns, and next of kin. Damages may include, but are not limited to, the following: certain death, dismemberment, disfigurement, Holocaust, torture, Down syndrome, disasters, both natural and unnatural, childhood cancer, Lou Gehrig's disease, Celine Dion.
Are you saying that my paradise can be broken?
absolutely.
Unfortunately, yes.
Why would my wife and helpmeet, as you call her, do that?
Well,
How do you break paradise anyway?
sin.
Sin.
Yeah, sin is basically doing anything that Mr. D doesn't want you to do.
Why would I do that? I mean, you're the deity.
Well, actually, isn't that covered in here?
Actually, yeah, sir. I got it right here. It's paragraph 13, section B. Where is it? Oh, okay. Here it is. Side effects of a wife may include but are not limited to the following: loss of judgment, loss of control, hair loss, insanity, temporary insanity, blind rage, blind jealousy, swelling, nausea, headaches, hypertension, dry mouth, body ache, fever, runny eyes, loose stool, erectile dysfunction, and a desire to do harm to oneself and others. Do not mix with alcohol or narcotics. If an erection persists for more than 4 hours, you must consult a physician.
All right, but we're talking about an helpmeet here, right? Like she's going to help me.
Absolutely,
Absolutely,
of course.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have power over her, right?
Yeah. Right?
Theoretically, on paper, absolutely.
100%, theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, is there really that much that I need in helpmeet?
Well, you do have to dress the garden and keep it.
Right, and then there's the tilling of the cursed ground by the sweat of your brow.
Sir, that's not till after the fall.
Oh, right. The fall.
In the fall, leaves
The leaves.
change colors and they fall to the ground, thus the fall. And there's a lot of, well, you have to rake,
Yeah.
right? You rake and till. I think you till.
It's beautiful, actually. I mean, there is some raking and maybe some tilling,
Right.
although I don't know. Do we know what tilling is?
They're tilling somehow, but the raking, definitely, a lot of raking. It's time consuming.
I don't know, it sounds risky.
Risky, come on, who the man?
Oh, well, sir, he's the only man.
Oh, right.
All right, I'll do it if I have to.
No. It doesn't work that way. You have to choose this freely or the whole thing's just a train wreck.
It sounds like a disaster in the making. I mean, why would anybody risk paradise? I'm pretty self-contained here, right? I mean, I get to come and go as I please. I can do what I want to do when I want to do it, and I don't have to worry about leaving the seat up.
Larry, show him the photo.
Hold that, please, sir. Okay, there you go. And there's the rear view.
I'm in.
Mr. Deity is basically just the outgrowth of about 27 years of my life spent thinking and trying to figure out the whole God thing in the universe. I didn't really get anywhere, but I figured out that where I started off was not great. A lot of people don't know this, but I began my journey here in life as a Mormon. I left the church in 1993 with my letter of resignation, which is kind of something you actually have to do. You tell them I'm leaving. for many reasons, not the least of which is they started excommunicating intellectuals and historians, people who were telling the truth, and that got to be a little too Galileo for me, and I said, I'm out of here. But I got really into it when I was about 17. I had my spiritual experiences, gained my testimony, and I went crazy. I studied religion day and night, Judaism, Christianity, got into everything. And I was deeply committed. I got religion, as Woody Allen would say, with a vengeance. And in my early 20s, I started working with Dennis Prager. Many of you will know him. He's a radio talk show host, nationally syndicated, conservative, Jewish theologian. Learned a lot about Judaism. And in my studies, I stumbled upon a quote about Socrates' comment about the unexamined life not being worth living. And the quote, the author said something about how that's unnecessarily harsh, but certainly the unexamined life is not lived as fully because your thoughts are not necessarily yours. And I went, oh, wow. God, I don't want to be that guy. I want to have my thoughts. You know, if you think of it in a Cartesian way, I think, therefore I am. I think someone else's thoughts, therefore I am someone else. I didn't like that idea. I wanted to be me. I wanted to know what I thought about things. So I did this thing that I think very few people do, and I don't know why I was able to do it, but I just took everything that had been put on me, that I believed, that I thought I believed for my own reasons or whatever, and I just took it off, and I put it to the side, and I thought, I'm going to use these great skills that I've been learning the last 25 years of my life, critical thinking skills, and I'm going to walk around this thing and look and see what I can pick up and take with me that I really wanted to keep from that, using those skills. Now, I also turned that on my religion, and what I found was that there were two big problems with Mormonism. One was that the entire religion rests on empirical claims that you can look at now scientifically and figure out whether they're true or not. The first of which is obviously being that are the Native Americans Hebrews? Well, no, they're not. By the early 90s, we found out through DNA that they were just dead wrong on that. But we also found out that there were not middle-aged societies in great numbers living here. We couldn't find all the swords, all the chariots, all the horses, all of that. And the second big problem was that the entire religion also rested on the idea that God punishes people by darkening their skin. People don't realize that is the central tenet of Mormonism. No one will tell you that. But that made it pretty easy for me to leave and walk away once I kind of figured those things out. I actually turned in a letter of resignation, which you kind of have to do, saying, take my name from the records of the church. And I came to understand that I had been living kind of a double life. And Richard talks about this in The God Delusion. I can call him Richard, I think. How we don't use our skills that we use every day in our lives, our critical thinking skills and our faculties, to apply the same standards that we do in every other aspect of our life on religion. We keep those two kind of compartmentalized, and I realized I couldn't do that anymore. So, I mean, I was guilty of it myself. I mean, I was doing the same thing. But I, for instance, knew about the idea of falsification, which I loved when I found out about it in science, where you actually try to falsify the theory first because it's so easy to delude yourself just looking for evidence that confirms what your theory is. But I never thought to apply it to my religion, so I started doing that, and I worked my way out of it. But this is what we do when we tie our identities into a belief system or a religion. We kind of keep that separate. What we say is, I'm a Mormon, therefore I will only look at evidence which supports my Mormonism. Mormons believe X, therefore I'll only look at evidence for believing in X. The problem with that is sometimes X is pure evil, like the idea that God would punish people by darkening their skin. So what do you do with that? Well, you get into trouble. So I kind of realized that this was a scary thing. This could be a very, very scary thing. And now that I think back on it, I realize there are all kinds of things people do in religions that because of that whole idea, they would never do otherwise. I don't think there is any loving parent who would allow his child to be taught, his or her, sorry, ladies, child to be taught that if he doesn't believe X, Y, or Z, he or she, he's going to burn in hell forever and ever. I don't think there's anyone who does that outside of a religious or an ideological mindset. So, to illustrate that principle, I wrote an episode called Mr. Didi and the Virgin, which we're going to perform for you right now, if I can get Jimbo and Sean up here. We're going to do this live. So I told him that the Promised Land was that crappy little area right off the Mediterranean.
Wait, that tiny little place with no oil?
Yeah, he bought it. Cooked like
Sir,
that. Yeah.
sir, you have to stop your people. You got to do something quick. Send down an angel or something.
Why? What are they doing?
They're going to kill an innocent girl. They're going to stone her to death.
You're kidding.
No.
What for? What did she do?
Well, they're saying she's not a virgin.
Oh.
That's it?
Well,
Well,
she's not a virgin,
Well,
right?
is she or isn't she?
I don't know, but should they really stone her to death?
Maybe.
I mean, she could have just been out horseback riding or something.
Well, she should have gone side saddle, right?
Side saddle safest, they say.
Yeah.
Well, did they catch her fornicating? Or?
No!
So
So
how
then
do
how
they
do they
know?
know?
That she,
Okay, well, she got married yesterday, right? And her husband takes her up to the room and there's no,
evidence of virtue.
Right.
Yeah.
well, if you want to call it that.
Well, I don't know what you want me to do
I
about
want
it.
you to stop it.
Stop it, Larry. That's their culture, okay?
They're
That's
people.
right.
That's how they roll.
How they roll? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Look, this father probably paid a pretty penny for the dowry, right?
Right.
And this guy was probably expecting some USDA prime, right?
Yeah, not something that's already been chewed on.
Yeah.
Larry,
That's
do you
just
realize
gross.
this girl made her father look like a complete schmuck?
Total schmuck.
I mean, his reputation's going to be worth nothing if he doesn't do something
Absolutely.
about it.
But-
He'll have no honor.
This groom thought he was driving off the lot with a brand new caddy, and he gets her home. He pops the hood and he sees nothing but wear and tear. I mean, come on, that doesn't deserve some kind of punishment?
Okay, so what you're saying is that all the men have to be virgins too?
But don't get crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa. How does the math add up on that one? Okay, it takes two to tango.
Well, you know I'm not good at math. right?
And he doesn't like to do the tango. You're
know.
more disco, right?
Tango.
Sir, you know this is wrong.
I don't know that's wrong. And besides, what am I supposed to do with the prime directive? I'm supposed to just toss that?
The what?
The
prime directive.
What are you talking about?
It states that we're not allowed to interfere with other cultures.
Whoa. That's not our thing. That's Star Trek.
Really?
So it's still a really good idea.
Sir, they're saying this is your idea to begin with.
Okay, I might have said something like that to Mo when we were hanging on the mount. I was ticked at Lucy. She was on me again about doing the virgin birth thing. I could have said something like that.
Okay, so what you're saying is you've been interfering since the beginning.
Exactly, yes. And what has it
That's
gotten?
where- yeah,
huh?
nowhere.
Nothing.
Okay. If you don't want to save the girl, what about your reputation?
My reputation.
he's
Please,
flawless.
I'm spotless.
Sir, years from now, people are going to look back and go, these were Mr. Deity's people, and he let this kind of thing go on. In fact, he ordered it, and I'm going to take this guy's advice. Please!
Yeah, and I will have a simple, elegant, two-word reply.
Prime directive.
We are so in sync tonight. It's pretty.
It's crazy.
Did you see the new Star Trek, by the way?
What, the J.J. Abrams thing?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it looks so
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. Is he one of our people, Abrams?
It's Hollywood, of course. It's
Right.
Who's he calling?
Hold on. Hi, Lucy. Yeah, it's Larry. Guess who wants all the women to be virgins?
Judas! And scene. Thank you.
Good job, buddy. Turn your mic off. Yeah.
Now, here's the frightening part about that episode. I was doing something called the Smile a Day calendar where I have to write a ton of stuff for Mr. Didi. We're working on it. It's not ready yet. But I needed topics and subjects to write about. So I found this site that does Christian apologetics. And on that site, they address the issue of the killing of virgins. And basically everything you hear Mr. Didi say there is what they say, okay? As horrifying as that stuff sounded, today, in the beginning of the 21st century, people are still saying that kind of thing. Here's what they say. Critics of the Bible must be careful not to impose their present-day moral system upon that of an ancient culture found in Scripture and then judge Scripture as though it is inferior to their own subjective morality. Yes, we must not do that. Let's just kill the virgins instead. The above verses were written 3,000 years ago in a very different culture and location. Sexual purity was highly valued, unlike today. Shame on us. And when a man and woman would marry, her virginity was critical. In ancient times, the dowry was paid by to the father of the bride, and the rightful expectation was that the bride would be a virgin. So as you can see, Mr. Deity's awful comments in that episode are just basically from this. But they go on to say, and I love this stuff, it just kills me. In the culture of the time, it was the father who was charged with the covering, care, and well-being of his daughter. Her sexual purity was representative of the father's ability to raise her according to the laws of God. Therefore, in that culture, a man's reputation, as well as the family's reputation in the community, could be adversely affected by the fornication of his daughter. Yes, this is still the first part of the 21st century. If his daughter had been promised to a man to be married and a dowry has been paid, there was every expectation from the bridegroom that she would be a virgin. If the contrary was discovered after the marriage, then the implication is that there had been a deception in which the father could be implicated, or it would mean that he was unaware of her sin, and this would bring great shame on the family. What we're talking about here is honor killings, okay? The things that people are so offended by today that are going on the other side of the world. They're talking about honor killings. I submit to you that there is no person who is not mentally ill or otherwise mentally impaired who is living in the 21st century, the first part of it, who would publicly defend or condone the murder of a young woman in any time in history because she might possibly not be a virgin. To justify that kind of evil, to condone it, to defend it, to embrace it, literally requires a God or an ideology that is equally unyielding to reason. My ex-mother-in-law, she came from an extremely Mormon family. Her family is one of the families who not came across, but came down of an extremely polygamous family. My mother-in-law is, how can I say this? She's a lovely woman. I do. I truly love her. She and I had our issues at the beginning, but we came to really respect each other. And I really do like her. She's a very good woman, but she's insanely pure. You know, very, I don't want to say uptight, but uptight. Okay, I'll say uptight. She would never, ever have had her husband come to her at some point during their marriage and say, you know what? God has told me that I need to take another wife. Maybe 2 or 3. Never would happen. Yet she had such pride in coming from this good Mormon polygamous family. Now, how does one do that? And does that not do something terrible to one's mind and one's values to live in that stratified kind of way? When I gave my letter of resignation to the church, you know, you hand it into your bishop, and I went over there. It was funny. I went over there. I drove over there. He was working on a little car that he'd bought, and I had my letter in my envelope and everything like that. And I drove over there, and I kind of had a feeling he knew what the letter was, and we stood there and talked I thought he was going to open it and read it and look at it, and he wouldn't do it. He just kind of, okay, well, great, thanks. I drove away, and I fully expected, because Mormons are very good at going after their lost sheep. Okay, when someone's leaving the fold, they don't let you leave easy. They go after you, okay? I never heard from anyone. They breathed a collective sigh of relief like very few people have ever breathed, because my last year there was very much about questioning, asking questions, and looking at things that I read and say, this is a problem. And I tried to stay even within the sources. I kept my sources Mormon. You know, there are some very good archaeologists doing archaeology in Central and South America and in the Americas here who have looked at it and who say, you know, I'm a believer and I want to believe this stuff, but it's just not there. The evidence doesn't hold. So for a while I would go to church, and I wasn't trying to make trouble. I was just raising my hand and saying, you know, I read this and blah, 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 blah. And no one had any answers, and no one had any tolerance for that either. It became clear to me, and I stopped going to church at a certain point, because I knew they weren't there. You know, they were there to have their faith renewed and all that stuff, and I just wasn't helping. So no one ever came for me. I got to walk away free and clear, and it was kind of anticlimactic for me, because I thought there would be some kind of, you know, usually a lot of times they actually hold a church court and try to excommunicate you before you can get out on your own. They really do that. They've done that to young people who are going to BYU, so that they can, because if you leave the church on your own free will, you can still keep going to BYU. If you're excommunicated, you're screwed. So it's a terrible thing that was done to a lot of people. So Richard talks somewhat in his book about the hatred that religious people have for knowledge. They don't want knowledge, particularly in the case of something like evolution. They don't want to hear the science. They don't want to. Knowledge is just a bad thing. And I was taught that quite a bit too. When I started asking my questions, a lot of leaders came to me and said, you know, you're getting into some dangerous territory here. You're starting to think. They didn't say it like that, but that's basically what they meant. So I wrote a little skit about that too, which we have up on YouTube and on iTunes and everywhere on our website. And Amy, my lovely wife, is going to come up here and do that one with me. It's called Mr. Deity and the Book Part 2. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
What is this called?
Mr. Didi and the Magic.
Mr. Deity and the Magic. Sorry. You can applaud again if you want. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing you. Oh. So here we go. And you'll notice she's reading the God Delusion. I have to make one caveat. I basically ripped this off from the God Delusion. I must plead guilty, and those of you who've read the book will recognize some of it. I didn't steal it verbatim, because he doesn't write skits. Although I'm going to talk to him about that. We're going to see if we can't get him writing. Okay. Hey, Lucy, have you seen Larry?
Yeah, he's out waxing the firmament.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks fantastic.
He did a good
so
job.
So much cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can almost see the heavens. So I just got back from Vegas with Bushy.
Cool.
Yeah, we saw the most amazing show. Have you heard of Penn and Teller?
Penn works for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? You
No.
have to invite him over. We'll have a meet and greet. They did the most amazing thing. They did this thing where they shoot each other with bullets.
That is a great trick.
Well, it's no trick. I mean, I was there. I saw it. They both, you know, made distinct markings on the bullet of each of their bullets before they put them in the gun, right? And then they had volunteers from the audience come up, and, you know, not just anybody, people with handgun experience. So there was no room for trickery of any kind, all right?
Okay.
Then they shot each other with the bullets, and they caught each other's bullets in their teeth. It was amazing.
Sweetheart, that's a magic trick.
Well, it was magical, I'll tell you, but there was no trickery involved. I watched very closely.
Okay.
David Copperfield?
Yeah, you know, David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear in front of a whole bunch of people.
So what you're saying is there are other magical beings in the universe just like me? This Copperfield guy, and then the pen, and Gillette, and his mute assistant?
They're not magical beings. They'd be the first to tell you they are illusionists.
Lucy, you're so naive. Of course they're not going to tell you that they're magical beings. People would be all over them asking for this and that. Look at how my voicemail, fills up.
Okay, all right. Remember when Jesus, cut me in half at the company talent show?
Yes, that was magic, just like the water into wine trick.
Okay, the water into wine, yes. But the sawing in half, no, that was a magic trick. When I got into the little case thing... What are you doing?
What are you doing?
I'm trying to explain the trick.
No, you're trying to take the magic away from me. You know I believe in magic, and you want to take that from me. I cherish that belief. It gives me great peace and hope. And now I'm learning that there are other magical beings in the universe too, that I'm not alone. That makes me feel great. And you're trying to steal that from me.
I am not trying to take anything away from you. I am trying to give you the truth.
Yeah.
When I got into the box...
Say, can you see?
You are a child.
You are a meanie.
Just turn your all-knowingness on for just a second and then you'll see.
Not gonna do it. Nope.
Why not?
Because knowledge is bad. Why do you think I told the kids, stay away from the tree of knowledge?
I never understood that.
What is bliss?
What?
Bliss. What is bliss?
The feeling?
Yes, the feeling. What is it?
It is joy. It is euphoria. I don't...
Lucy, it's ignorance. Ignorance is bliss. You have to learn your aphorisms. That's why I made the kids dumb as rocks, because I wanted them to have a happy life. But what do? They go blow it right out of the gate with what? With knowledge. Knowledge.
So, knowledge is bad.
Yes, absolutely. It's horrible. The fruit on that tree tasted like a scientific paper. And you know better than I do how bitter error bars are. It was awful. It was terrible.
Okay, so let's say that someone doesn't understand something, that they
Okay.
think it's fishy.
All right.
Shouldn't they investigate to find out what it is?
No. Are you kidding me? Do you know how much time you can waste investigating? And what for? When you can easily and efficiently, just write it off to some mystical force. I mean, that's what I do. Lucy, what killed the cat?
Whiskers is dead.
Yeah, Whiskers is dead. I'm going to have Jesus resurrected now. But I'm talking about the metaphorical cat. Curiosity killed the cat. Okay? You've got to learn your aphorisms.
So curiosity is bad too.
Curiosity is awful. Yes, absolutely. In fact, you know what? Hold on. I was reading the other day and I saw this and I thought it was brilliant. I thought I can use this in a case like this. This is from St. Augustine, okay, who happened to know a little something about life, okay? He said, there is another form of temptation even more fraught with danger. Danger, Lucy. This is the disease of curiosity. It is this which drives us to try and discover the secrets of nature, those secrets which are beyond our understanding, which can avail us nothing, and which man should not wish to learn. Booyah!
But you are the deity.
So it's still a really good quote. It's St. Augustine.
Okay, look. I'm no troublemaker.
Yeah, tell that to Job.
And if this belief gives you peace, if it makes you happy...
It does, yeah, absolutely.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Just so long as you don't try to foist this folly on kids in the classroom. That is all I ask.
Does that include Sunday school? And sing. Thank you. I was so certain that I was going to call her Amy at some point. Thank heavens. Those endings go better, too, when you have a rim shot. We need our rim shot. Darn it. Part of what I feel, and I hope comes through in Mr. Deity, we have a lot of religious people who write me all the time, and they watch the show and they love the show. A lot of pastors, and I don't think they're dim. A lot of people say, well, they're just not getting it. They're not. They get it. They love it. I've had a number of pastors write me, is it okay if I use Mr. Deity in The Really Big Favor, which is the episode where I try to convince Jesse to go down and be crucified. If I can use that Easter morning for my service, I think this is a church I can get with. And what I think a lot of people sense in that for me is, first of all, I have a religious background, so I'm not necessarily in any way contemptuous of the religious, because I was one of them, and I know I wasn't stupid. I know how that impulse can grab you and take hold of you. And we try never to do anything too offensive or too belittling in the episodes. And I think what comes across for me is some of the ways I think of Mr. Deity, since I'm playing the character, and I play him somewhat sympathetically, I hope, is that I feel really bad if there is a guy up there who did have something to do with this mess. I feel horrible about the things people say he's done, and they say it in his name. He is the king of genocide. He is the king of misogyny. He's the king of homophobia. I mean, there's a lot of terrible things that this guy, that they say, his people say he's done. And I try to play that somewhat sympathetically, because I can imagine how awful I would feel if people were speaking to me like that. And I ultimately think that it's more likely if one day we, pass on and we are in that next world facing judgment, that such a being would value people who thought for themselves and tried to do the right thing regardless of whether they were threatened with hellfire for eternity, than someone who is going to say, well, I think you ordered genocide, or I think you wanted all the gays killed, or virgins, you name it. There's a lot of terrible things. There was an episode called Mr. Didi in the Book in the first season, in which Mr. Didi was very upset that he wasn't getting royalties about the book that was in his name and all of this stuff. I couldn't help but follow that up with Mr. Didi and the Book Part 2, where Mr. Didi actually reads the darn thing for once. So if we can run that. Oh, that's sick.
Excuse me, sir.
Have you read this thing?
The Bible? Yeah.
So what? No heads up? I mean, what the...
Sir, we've been over this before, remember?
Was I not incredibly clear about the consequences of associating that kind of evil with me?
No, you weren't.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain?
Nobody knows what that means.
I look like an evil tyrant in this thing. They're saying I want the gays dead. Who was single-handedly responsible for all the best television?
The gays, sir.
And what would fall fashion be without the gays, huh? I'll tell you what it would be. It would be fallen fashion. People in animal skins still, like Adam and Eve after the fall.
Fallen fashion. That's pretty clever, sir.
How do people think this is my book? If it were my book, wouldn't it be filled with transcendence? This is Iron Age tribalism, nothing more.
Love thy neighbor? That's pretty transcendent for the time.
Yeah, except for they literally meant the guy living next door to you, your neighbor in your own tribe. The guy across the river in another tribe, there's no love for him. You can kill him, kill his boys, take his wife and daughters, and his stuff. You can take his stuff for booty. That's what they call it. Can you believe that? Who would associate that kind of evil with disco?
Well, that's just not right, sir. I mean, disco is king.
Yeah, it is. And you know who else is king? I am. I'm the king of homophobia, of genocide, misogyny, of religious intolerance.
But listen, it's time just to move on, okay?
Like hell I'm moving on. We gotta stop these people. We have to keep people from this thing. It's awful. Who's responsible for this thing?
Well, the Christians and a few Jews.
Well, let's leave the Jews out of it, but I want to hit the Christians hard. Let's make them bleed, you know? I mean, I want them to look as bad as they make me look in this thing.
What'd you have in mind?
Well, let's start out with a little unnecessary roughness, okay? Let's make it so they can't dance.
Okay, that's easy. Prohibit dancing.
No, not a prohibition. I just want them to look stupid when they dance. Totally uncoordinated. And make them clap on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4.
And the black Christians too?
No, let's leave the blacks out of this. They've suffered enough too.
As far as the dancing goes, and I'll check on this, okay? But I think that's already programmed into Christians. And as a matter of fact, I think there's certain groups that have abolished dancing altogether, you know, because they realized early on that they just look silly.
Footloose?
There you go.
All right, well, okay. How about this then? Let's take it up a notch. Let's make it so that their leaders have just the worst hair. Absolutely awful hair, totally atrocious, and they're completely oblivious to it. I mean, if that doesn't keep people away.
Bad hair. Okay, here's the thing. I think that one's already been programmed in as well.
You're kidding. Bad hair. How many Christians are there?
2 billion.
Jeez, well, there's 2 billion people who don't care about the way they look. I mean, that explains the homophobia right there.
There you go.
Well, all right. We gotta crank it up a notch again and hit them with the big guns. Let's throw out a can of sexual repression on these people like no one's ever seen. Let's make it so that there's absolutely no way they can enjoy sex whatsoever. Missionary position only, maybe for procreative purposes only, and then on top of that, let's pile on with a big old can of guilt and shame. I mean, who's gonna survive that, right? That's nuclear.
I really hate to cut you off here, sir, but I'm actually dead certain on this one. That one's already been programmed in.
You're kidding. And there are 2 million of these people walking around?
No, 2 billion, sir, with a B.
How do they get those kind of numbers?
Well, they get them while they're young, sir, and they put the fear of you into their tiny little heads. They threaten them with hellfire, damnation, eternal torment.
They do this to little kids?
Yeah.
So like what, re-education camps?
Sunday school, woodland retreats.
All right, well, how about if we get the Pope to kill a bunch of them off? He's good at that. Let's have him, prohibit condom use during the AIDS crisis.
Sir, that's going to disproportionately hit the poor and the disenfranchised, especially in Africa.
All right, nix that then, but, what am I left with? You know what I gotta do?
Come on, sir. They really are trying to spread your good name. They don't even like to talk about the bad things that they said you did in that book. They're embarrassed by it, too.
Yeah, they should be embarrassed by it, but guess what? Bridge burning time. This is it. I'm done with these people.
The unholy trinity?
Absolutely.
Okay, but who's the third one again?
It's Falwell. Falwell, Swaggart, and Baker. No one's going to survive being associated with those three, right?
Hey, what if... You know what we could do? No, that's too much, sir.
You want to pile on, don't you? Come on. Give it to me. Let me hear it.
You know we have that whole guilt by association thing, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with W?
That's only the second time I've done anything even remotely political. I did and it's just the last line. I did an episode in the second season, first episode actually of the second season, called Mr. Deity and the Intelligence, or the Intel, I think it was, where we had him calling George Bush before the invasion, telling him he's got to go in. People didn't like that. I thought it was funny because it went both ways. You could interpret it both ways. I've learned not to do political humor on this show. People hate you. Now, one of the funny things to me is how, not funny, but sad really, is how dissociated people of the book have become with the book itself. People of the book have been dissociated from this being that you just saw there, who was obsessed with all of these things, being the king of genocide and homophobia and misogyny. They don't even know about this being anymore because it's almost like we've gone back to the Dark Ages where they don't read the Bible for themselves. They just have someone do it for them and then tell them what's in there on Sunday mornings. So they've been incredibly dissociated from this being. And in America now, it's as if we've been so divorced from what Christianity was and what Christianity gave us. People in America, they simply don't know what's in the book, nor do they know the history of Christianity, the terrible impact Christianity had on civilization. And this is particularly true in America. In America, we've been totally removed from our ability to see that the Europe of 500 years ago is virtually identical in many ways to the Afghanistan of the Taliban. Okay? If you want to applaud that, feel free. I heard someone. And today what they say is, well, America is a result of Christianity. America is a Christian nation. How many people in here agree with that? I don't see a lot of hands going up. But they forget that Christianity is no longer a threat to people's lives, to people's happiness, to people's freedom, because it has been tempered by the secular laws that we put in place to keep Christianity away. If Christianity was going to create an American society, a free and independent liberal democracy, it would have done so when Christianity had power. But it didn't. People got on boats, teeny little boats, to cross the Atlantic, knowing that there was a good chance they were either going to die on the way here or die shortly after, to get away from the civilization that Christianity had created. And yet, they will say that Christianity built this country, that America is a Christian nation. But look at this country's founding document, the Constitution. This is what they're completely missing. When Christians had power, did they think, you know, it's probably a good idea for us to separate religion and politics? Did they do that? No. When Christians had power, were they free? Were they interested in the free exercise of religion? No. When Christians had power, did they guarantee free speech? Did they guarantee freedom of the press? Did they guarantee freedom to assemble? Due process. Is the concept of a fair trial a Christian principle, an ideal? No, they didn't practice that when they had power. The rights of the accused, were they concerned about that? No. Were they against cruel and unusual punishment? Torquemada didn't seem to think so, nor do some people recently. I don't want to name names. And, you know, Richard has this, there's a great little video on YouTube where Richard is asked, what if you're wrong? And I don't know if everyone's seen it in here. It's such a great answer. He says, well, what if you're wrong? You know, people, they see things so narrowly. They don't see that, well, yeah, I could be wrong. Zeus could be the guy that I'm really supposed to be going for. I had this idea of Mr. Deity saying to people, were you a Christian? Okay, you're going down. Because what I'm really looking for is not people who follow like sheep, but people who think for themselves and do the right thing without the threat of hell. But I think there's another answer equally as powerful. What I would say to the Christian who says, what if you're wrong? I would say, well, there's one thing that we do know, and that is you were wrong. You were wrong because when you had power, you did not create a free society that cared about people's freedoms and their rights. You created tyranny. And what I'm trying to show in Mr. Deity, what I want to be able to do with this series is to make people think, rethink about these things. There are conversations that, if their idea of a God is true, there are conversations that would have had to go down. Like, what evils are we going to allow in the universe? Well, okay, Holocaust. You heard some of the list there in Mr. Deity and the Man, ended with Celine Dion. That to me is one of the toppers. There are conversations that people don't think about. There are conversations like this one we just had, where a virgin is going to be killed. And Mr. Deity says, well, you know, if she's not a virgin, what are you going to do? That is the God of the Bible, okay? We've divorced ourselves from those bad things. We pick and choose. We take the good stuff. And quite frankly, there's not that much good stuff left because the bad stuff is so overwhelming. The idea that anyone who doesn't believe as you believe is going to burn in hell for the rest of forever is probably the worst idea in the history of mankind. Now, thank you. I don't think a little show like this is going to change the world, but it has made people think, I know, because I get the emails. I get the emails from people who are either on the fence or, like I said, from a lot of Christians who are not the fundamentalist wackos, and there are quite a few of them. People told me I was going to get a ton of hate mail doing this, and I haven't. And it's because I did believe that the vast majority of religious people in this country were not the nutbars that we see all the time. We see them on TV all the time because they make news. They're nuts, and we love to see people who are nuts. You're watching me. There's nothing more obvious. So I hope you'll watch the show. It's on YouTube and on iTunes. You can subscribe and download all the episodes, and then you'll get the updates every month. We have a Facebook page. They told me to plug this. We have a Facebook page, and we do take donations if you want to go to our website and sign up for a subscription and donate. I think this is a valuable thing because what it does is allow people to examine these beliefs with humor. Sometimes the out-and-out assault is great, and people can handle it. Most people can't. And we've been finding so many people who will watch this show who would never have taken a straight attack on their religion. So humor can be a fantastic way to turn people's minds around. So that's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.